everybody, and welcome to Touchdown in the UK, the UK-based NFL podcast that discusses the NFL pick'em options and other NFL-related questions, topics that may arise throughout the week. We are lucky enough to be here today with the 15th best pickster in the world. Now, he was at one point the second best pickster in the world, according to NFL Pick'ems on Sky. He's now slipped to the 15th best pickster in the world. But when we worked it out, he's still in the top 0.01%. So I think that deserves credit to Cliff. How you doing, Cliff? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I just want to correct you what you said there in your intro. I did actually make it to the summit at one point. I was first in the world, but obviously that means there's a bigger drop. But we'll discuss my picks in a short while, I'm sure.
Apologies there, how the mighty have fallen. We are also joined today by Nicko, a big Chargers fan who loves all things Justin Herbert and Phil Rivers. How are you doing today, Nicko?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. A lot better this week after the victory against the Raiders.
Good. And I am Theo. I am a rookie to NFL. Only really started watching it this season. Only really started getting into it this season. I feel like I've learned a fair bit along the way from the two wise heads we've got with us in the podcast. They've guided me well. Currently doing all right on NFL pick'ems and starting to do pretty well when it comes to betting as well on NFL. So that's a positive. So looking back at last week then, we've had a few consistently similar weeks between us on the pod recently, all roughly getting around 10 or 11. However, this week's been a bad week for me, unfortunately. I let my head rule my heart. I had a few drinks on Sunday, decided to change my pick on the day from the Cardinals to the Eagles. Thinking about my team, the Eagles there. I mean, I got a little bit excited because they beat the Saints last week, and obviously they lost like they have done most of the time this season. Not a great week from Cliff either, who's dropped down, as I said, to 15th now. He's still in touching distance with that top spot. However, got a few key weeks now to try and make it up. And Nicko, I've got to say, won 11 last week, and he was celebrating on Monday like he'd won the Heisman Trophy. I've never seen anything like it from him. But there we go. Anything you want to say about last week's picks, lads?
Yeah, I think, as we said, I am in touching distance to win the whole competition. And I think I took a few too many gambles last week. And the Bears caught me out. I had my eye on the Bears game. And I just think they look so much better with Trubisky as the quarterback. And I still think they can make the playoffs. We had a little conversation about the Bears. I think they've got a good chance of sneaking into those playoffs, so they're one to watch out for me in the next few games.
Are you still riding on the crest of a wave, Nicko?
Yeah, but Jets and Bengals were the two upsets that I think would have thrown most people out. I've been backing against the Chargers all year purely because of the record. We don't deserve to have a record what we do have, but I just back against us because if they lose, I've got the point on pick 'em. If we win, I'm happy anyway.
Oh, that's poor. That is poor.
I mean, I will say on Pick'ems last week, there were a couple of 100%, well, more than a couple. There was a few 100% picks where everyone apparently had picked one team, and actually they were upset. So the Jets last week were 0% of the people chose the Jets, and they did win. So I don't think you lost ground to many people not picking the Jets. And Bengals, I think, would have been very similar. Looking ahead to this week's picks, then we're getting to a really, really crucial time, not only of the season for those teams pushing for the playoffs, but also for our big Cliff here. It's got a couple more weeks to really make that difference, to push that top spot. He's been close all season. We think he deserves to be at the top. He's now got to make sure he shows it, though. Big couple of weeks, a lot of pressure on his shoulders there. Sort of taking over from Christmas, I think, for him. So the first pick this week is going to be Cliff. The Christmas Day game of the Saints versus the Vikings on at 9:30 UK time, Christmas Day. Cliff, who are we going for?
This one's going to be a good game, if I'm honest. I think Vikings have got some good weapons on offense. Obviously, they've got Cook, who's possibly the second, third best running back in the league behind Nick Chubb. And then I've been impressed with Jefferson this year as well. But I think the Saints have got a really good defense as well. I think the third overall in defense in the NFL. And off the back of the Chiefs' loss this week, I think the Saints need to bounce back. But obviously, as you mentioned earlier, the playoff implications, and the Vikings are still within a shout of the playoffs. But I'm going to just pick the Saints to edge this one out with Drew Brees coming back, I think he's going to have enough just to get the win in this game. And Santa's going to bring the Saints a nice victory.
Not that it matters too much for you, as we've said previously, the margin's now pretty much lost for you. But what margin are you looking at for this game, Cliff?
I've gone with 6. I'm trying a different tactic with the margins. I went big last week and it backfired on me. I've gone shorter this week and hopefully get closer to a smaller margin, just in case it does come down to margins. But as you say, it's unlikely.
I'm sticking with a tactic that I wish I'd realised earlier on. I'm looking at the spread, and that's the margin I'm going for. I'm using the statistics to go with me. So that is the spread in this game, 7. So I'm going Saints margin 7. Nicko, then over to you. We've got the Lions Bucks. 97% of the picksters on Pick'ems picking the Bucks. Are you with them?
Yeah, I'm with them. The Bucks beat the Falcons last week and puts them a game behind the Saints in the NFC South after they lost to the Chiefs. The Bucks need to win both remaining games, and I think that against the Lions, having seen what I have from them this season, I can only see a Bucks victory.
The spread's looking at 8.5 on this one in favour of the Bucks. What do you reckon to that? Good bet?
I think it'll be around that ballpark.
Over to me then. It's Cardinals 49ers. For those who know me well, know that I like a team with a bird as their emblem. The Picksters are with me on this one, 93% in favour of the Cardinals. Cardinals have served me pretty well this season. Punished me last week for changing my pick last week, so I'm backing the Cardinals this week. Margin's looking like it'll be a close game, though, at 4.5. But I'm sticking with the Cardinals for this one. Cliff, over to you. Raiders, Dolphins, looking to be a really close game. Margin's just 2.5. 76% in favour of the Dolphins on Pick'ems, though. Who are you going with?
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me as a Browns fan, as obviously Raiders win would be ideal with Miami competing for the Browns in the playoffs if it does come down to Browns finishing the playoffs. It all depends if Carr's fit. He went off last week against the Chargers. I think it was in the first quarter with a groin injury. He has come out and said that he wants to play. And I do think if he does play, it'll be a lot closer. But I just think Miami's defence, if he don't play, will just hold out. And I think Miami will sneak a win against the Raiders this week.
Over to you then, Nicko. Jets obviously got their first win last week. Big first win. With 0% of the picksters picking them. This week, just 2% of people are picking them. So I think they've got a slight more chance against the Browns. What are you going for, Nicko?
Yeah, Jets finally got that first win, as you say. But May seems like it might cost them the first pick in the draft next year. Jaguars have now got that. As Cliff's been banging on about all day as well. The Browns are only one game behind in the AFC North. So it's a crucial matchup for them next week when they play each other. As funny as it would be to see the Jets end Cliff's dreams of the Browns winning the division, I do think that the Browns get the win.
And at 9.5, the spread, would you touch that?
As I said last week, the Jets are keeping games closer than you would expect a team who are winless until this week to be. But it depends which Baker turns up.
Oh, come on. Baker's been unreal for 7 weeks now.
I think we're about 15 weeks into the season, mate, so that's not quite good enough.
Right.
Have a word, Theo. Have a word.
I've got Ravens, Giants. Obviously, Giants in the most hotly contested division in the NFL. Arguably the best division in the NFL for entertainment purposes, with all teams still to play for. However, I'm backing the Ravens on this one. The spread is a very considerably large 12.5. So the bookies are fancying the Ravens, and I'm going to be going with the Ravens as well on this one. So over next then is to Cliff. We've got Texans, Bengals. 92% of the picksters going with the Texans at the minute, and spread of -9 in favour of the Texans. So the bookies fancying the Texans as well. Cliff, who are you going for?
Yeah, no surprise. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans. I think if the Bengals can get the run going, they've got a chance to keep it close. But ultimately, I just think Watson's a far superior quarterback to Finley or Allen, depending on which one will play, obviously, with Joe Burrow out. And I just think the Texans will have enough firepower to get him over the finish line. Not sure about, was it 90% you said there?
92% in favour of the Texans.
Yeah, it's quite high, to be honest. I thought it might be a little closer to 70-30, but I'm in favour of Texans on this one.
I do feel as the pick'ems have gone forward throughout the season, people have been a lot more one way or the other. There's not been that many splits in the last few weeks. And with that in mind, over to Nicko, we've got the Jags Bears. As you mentioned, Jags now holding the worst record in the league, meaning they'll get that number one draft pick next season. 96% of the picksters going with the Bears have been quite unreliable this season at times. Margin 7.5 in favour of the Bears. What are you saying to that, Nicko?
Yeah, I've not been fully convinced by the Bears this season. They're a bit streaky. They win a few, lose a few. Jaguars, as you said, hold the number one pick. They're on a 13-game losing streak. I think it's got to be a Bears win. And as the percentages are saying that, they will get the victory.
Right, back to me. Again, another one with a big spread on this one. It's Chiefs, Falcons. Spread is looking at minus 10.5. Chiefs, as we know, lots of people picking them to reach the Super Bowl. For me, I can only see one winner in this game, and that's the Chiefs. Been quite kind from the producers today in the picks I've been given. Moving on, though, at the other end of the spectrum, we have the marquee match of the week, the big one that everyone's interested in. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting game. The Steelers seem to be bottling it big style at the minute. They're faced with a strong Colts team. Nicko's second favourite boy, Phil Rivers, obviously hitting form at the right time. Cliff, who are you going with in this one? Big game. I know lots of the people at the top end of the Pick'ems League will be listening closely to this one.
Thanks to the producers for giving me this one, especially, as I said earlier, a Browns fan. This one's tough. Steelers obviously went to 11-0, and now they're 11-3. Lost the last three, so not in good form. And the Colts seem to always find a way to win at the minute. I think in the last 22 seconds the other day, fumble on fourth down, which would have tied the game by the Texans, and Colts come away with a win. And two high-scoring teams, so will it be a high-scoring game? But I just think Steelers' defence will stop it being so high-scoring. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, even though both offences are quite good in terms of points per game. And I'm going to say that the Steelers bottle another game and take it to week 17 in a shootout with the Browns for the division. So I'm backing the Colts in this one.
I mean, that would be an interesting one for us all. Nicko, are you still backing the Colts when it gets to the playoffs? Your second team? Are they going to be the ones you're supporting?
Yeah, as I said last week, I had them at the start of the season against the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. So as the Chargers are going to be eliminated, why not let's see Phil Rivers get that Super Bowl ring?
Next pick then is over to Nicko. One that I'm very interested in, particularly. We've got Washington Panthers.
Panthers fired their general manager, Marty Herney, this week. They've lost 10 now for the season, and I think it's 8 in the last 9. Washington also lost last week after their 4-game winning streak that you'd seem to back them on. The Seahawks beat them in the end. But again, quite a tight game still, I think. I think Washington get the win here.
So Washington win. We're looking like it's going to be a close game on the betting. Minus 2.5. Would you be willing to take that bet on the spread?
Yeah, I think I would. I think that's a pretty small margin. I think you'd hope that they win by at least 3 points.
So over to me then. I'm going to go against what I normally do here. And I'm actually feeling quite confident about this. I'm having it in the take punt as well. And I'm going to be backing the Chargers to beat the Broncos. I think I'll probably back the Chargers maybe twice all season. So I'm hoping
Wise man.
that they keep their winning streak up from last week. Mainly thinking of how bad the Broncos have been in recent weeks. They've took a bit of a pasting over the last few weeks. They do have a very, very similar record to the Chargers. But I fancy the Chargers this week, and the spread looking at -3 to me looks like a good bet, like the Washington one. Cliff, over to you then. Rams, Seahawks. The margin is incredibly close. The spread is incredibly close. It's -1. Pick'ems looking a little bit more split though. 67% in favour of the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think the percentages on Pick'ems will be based on Ramsey's defeat last week to the Jets. But I think that could obviously work in the Rams' favour, as McVay haven't fired up for this game. I think he used the words embarrassing after the defeat last week. But the Seahawks have got the number 1 spot now in the NFC West, and I think they'll hold on to it. So I'm backing the Seahawks to defeat the Rams this week.
Sensible bet. I think I might change mine about 4 times before the game on Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a really close one.
That's one thing I've got to stop doing. I've got to stop changing.
Yeah.
I've made my picks now, and that's it. I'm leaving pick'ems for this week.
I think you'd be higher up the table if you'd have done that from the start, to be honest, mate, I've got to say. Right, Nicko, another really close pick. This is the closest one, according to the NFL pick'ems this week. The margin is just 1.5 on this one, so you cannot call it, really. It's Cowboys, Eagles. Over to you.
Yeah, so I was looking at this one. I think the Cowboys can still win the division, I think, if they win out and Washington lose the final 2. I don't think anyone's out of the division yet, obviously being quite a poor year. I think it's a tough one coming down to the game. I've not really rated the Cowboys in recent weeks, so I think I'm going to back the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to be backing the Eagles. Like I said, it is a bit of a pipe dream coming from bottom to winning the league. Winning the division. But I do think, it is possible because of that tie they got earlier on in the year for them to win it. They're obviously banking on on Washington losing both games. Packers, Titans is over to me. Again, it's a difficult one for me. Packers looking in really good form, particularly ahead of the playoffs. Lots of people again picking the Packers to be in the Super Bowl. The spread is at -3. Titans have been a strong team, picked up some big results this year, but I'm going to be sticking with the Packers in this one. I think they're going to want to hit a bit of form, keep hold of their form, as they head into the playoffs. I'm going to be going with the Packers. Last one for the week then. Patriots, Bills. Over to you, Cliff. It's Pickham's saying strongly in favour of the Bills, which would make sense. Margins -7 on the spread. Who are you going for?
Yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm going with the Bills. Patriots were one of the teams last week that let me down. I did fancy Belichick to get the victory over a rookie quarterback, as he usually seems to do, and he didn't. And now they're out of the playoffs for the first time in however many years. I don't think it'll be as much as the margin says. I think it might be close, but I just think the Bills will have enough to beat a poor Patriots team this season.
Excellent. So you've heard the picks this week. It's getting to a really important point in the season, not just for those teams pushing for the playoffs, but particularly important for Big Cliff here, who wants that last push for the top spot that he feels he so truly deserves. And we think he's been there all season. It's been close. It would be just the icing on the cake of Cliff's Christmas if he can steal that top spot at the last minute and be crowned the Sky Bet NFL Pick'ems Champion 2020. Our next feature is one I tend to do very well in. Not so much for the other two in the group, is our Take a Punt feature. And over to you then, Nicko.
Yeah, so as you said, you seem to do very well. You were the only one of the three of us to win last week. Hopefully you are going to win this week, because if you do, that means the Chargers win. You've gone Chargers -3 in your pick. Cliff has selected over 56 points in the Packers-Titans game, and I've gone for Cardinals -4 against the Niners. And that is 5.96 to 1 on Sky Bet.
Good odds on that. Good bet there. I think we've got a good chance of that. I fancy us this week. I really do. So over to our next feature. Hopefully, should have plenty to talk about. It's over to Nicko. He's been building this up all week. All that excitement from that victory last week for his half a minute of Herbert. A couple of weeks ago, he couldn't even scrape together about 20 seconds. A bit more interested last week. And hopefully, he's got plenty to say about Justin Herbert this week.
I reckon I could do a minute this week.
30 seconds, half a minute of Herbert. Off you go now.
Yeah, so in the win over the Raiders, Herbert threw for 314 yards, 2 lovely passing touchdowns, and the quarterback sneak for the rushing touchdown to seal the win in overtime. He broke the record held by Andrew Luck for the most rookie games with 300-plus passing yards, and tied Mayfield's records for rookie games with multiple passing touchdowns and most passing touchdowns in a rookie season. With 2 games left, they expected to break both of those records, hopefully next week against the Broncos. And with 219 yards against the Broncos, he'll join Mahomes as the only player to eclipse 4,000 yards in the first 14 starts.
I think the stopwatch started playing up a little bit towards the end there. He squeezed out an extra 6 seconds there, the cheeky minx. So, final section of the pod then, we've got some opportunity for some questions. We've recently joined the world of Twitter, and we've opened up our questions to some of our followers on there. I know Cliff has been watching his analytics very closely, and Nicko, I know, has been accepted in a very kind manner from the Chargers UK family, #BoltUp.
Bolt up.
So, first question for you this week I want you to have a think about is who, and it's quite a straightforward question, it's the one on everyone's lips. Who do you think will make it to the Super Bowl? Who are the 2 teams that you are backing to make it to the Super Bowl? Going to you first, Cliff.
I think the obvious choice is going to be the Chiefs Packers. That would be the Super Bowl, and I think that'd be a Super Bowl everyone would enjoy watching. Mahomes v Rodgers. But I'm going to pick outside the box for my choice, and I'm going to go with the Bills from the AFC, and from the NFC, I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I'm going to go Bills Seahawks in this year's Super Bowl.
Right, very interesting one. I think the record they both have got at the minute wouldn't look too far past them. It's definitely a bit of an outside bet, but it'd be an interesting one if it does come in. Nicko, who are you saying?
Yeah, so as Cliff said, the Chiefs are the obvious pick. I'd like to see Mahomes face up against either Brady and the Bucks or Wilson and the Seahawks or Rodgers and the Packers. To be fair, any of those would be good ones. I had Cardinals, Colts at the start. So that would be the matchup I'd like to see, but that's probably not the one that the fans would like to see the most.
Thank you very much. So next question we've got is, what has been your favourite game this season? As we're coming towards the end of the regular season, playoffs over the horizon, what's been your favourite game this season? Over to you first, Nicko.
Any of the Chargers 5 wins would be my favourite game of the season, especially the last one against the Raiders. I don't know. I feel like there's been quite a few good ones this year. Some good shootout games. Apart from the 45-0 blowout by the Patriots, I think I've enjoyed quite a lot this season.
I will say that's the only Chargers game I've actually watched this season.
Yeah, don't watch another one then.
The 45-0 blowout. So I won't be watching that this week because I don't want to cost my pick'ems and the take a punt at the same time. So I won't be watching it. You'll be pleased to know, Nicko. Cliff, what's been your favourite game this season?
My favourite game this season, from a Browns point of view, is probably the Bengals game. I think the lead changed 5 times in the fourth quarter, and then Mayfield threw for a touchdown in the last few seconds, which was a great game. We've had a few good games this year. The Titans game was a brilliant game to watch. I think the defence showed that they could actually compete and kept King Henry quiet in that game. But one of the games that got me out my seat more than anything was the Cowboys win. When the Browns beat the Cowboys, I just think some of the touchdowns in that game, I was dancing around the living room. So either the Bengals or the Cowboys wins for me as a Browns fan this year.
So not interested in any games for the neutrals there. Both of our main experts on NFL here picking their own team's games. But there you go.
100%.
Right, final section of the pod is the wild card question. It's the one that I come up with as a rookie, taking you outside the world of NFL a little bit and mixing up it with other sports. So if you were to compare your NFL teams, obviously Browns incredibly close to your heart, Cliff, and Nicko, you cut you open, you bleed powder blue. Who would you most compare your NFL team to in terms of English Premier League teams? So who do you think your NFL team is most like in the current English Premier League? Nicko, over to you first.
Yeah, so I've been having a look at the Premier League table just to double check positions. And the obvious one, based on the players that the team have got, you might say this is an overstatement here, but I would say based on the players that both the Chargers and Arsenal have got, they should be a lot better than where they are in the table.
So the only thing Arsenal and the Chargers have in common is they should both sack their managers.
Okay, then. Who would you say? Because
Are you going for Arsenal, are you?
I'm going for Arsenal because I'm
Okay.
looking at it and I think that it's a bit different in football because Arsenal are like a legendary team who are used to winning and the Chargers aren't. But based on this season alone,
So, Nicko, thank you for your pick there. You've picked the Chargers, who, as far as I'm aware, haven't won anything in living memory at the current team, with Arsenal, who were an absolute force in the Premier League in the late 90s, early 2000s, famously completing the invincible season, winning numerous FA Cups. But you think the Chargers are most like them. Thank you, mate. Cliff, over to you then with the Browns.
I think there's two that come to mind for the Browns for me. I think Wolves is a good one. I do think Wolves, but I'm not going to pick Wolves. I'm going to pick Southampton.
Ooh, interesting.
Because I think for the last few years, not so good. Had a few bad seasons, just like the Browns. But this year, some would say are overachieving and are right up there as one of the best teams in the league. And I think the Browns are as well. So I'm going to go with Southampton.
I think on league placings, I think Southampton's a really clever pick, really, because as you say, they've been pretty poor over the last few seasons. At one point, lots of people tipped them to get relegated last season, managed to stay up. Obviously, the Browns, as I know, have had horrific records in the previous 2 seasons. But they are doing very well this season in the Premier League. And like the Browns, I think not many teams are backing against them when they come up against them. So I think that makes sense.
how did Cliff get allowed a Southampton versus Browns comparison this season, but I wasn't allowed this season's comparison? I had to have a historical comparison.
I mean, mate, you had Arsenal there.
Okay, well, looking at it again, based on other picks then, so Newcastle, and good in the timeline as well, Newcastle have never won the Premier League, but should have won it in 1995. And that's when the Chargers actually made the Super Bowl.
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have picked Liverpool, which I'm sure was probably on your list there if you were to show us it right now. But anyway, he's gone for Arsenal. So that brings the pod to a close for this week. We've got a fantastic weekend ahead of the festive round of NFL games. There's going to be some absolute crackers in there. We're all keen to see if Cliff can make one final push for the top spot. We're all hoping as well, obviously, the Chargers get a win this week to help our bet and keep Nicko happy over the Christmas period. And I'm personally hoping that the Eagles make one final push to win that coveted NFC East division. Thank you very much for listening today. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We hope you all have a wonderful Christmas from us at Touchdown UK, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Stay safe. Have a great Christmas. Bye, everyone.